Cold calls don't work anymore. And if you think that they do, then you're latching on to a declining sales method and you're ignoring the trends. Trust is more important than ever in the sales process. Deep inside, you already know that. So why do you continue with those old and declining sales techniques? In this episode, I'll show you statistics about cold calls and emails, how they're declining, and I'll do the math for you of why you are so much better using trust in your sales process. Quality over quantity. Right after this. Welcome to The Trust Show. I'm Yoram Solomon, your host, the author of the Book of Trust and facilitator of the Trust Habits Workshop. My mission is simple. I want to help you form habits that build your trustworthiness, because the answer to this question will have the biggest impact on your personal and professional success or failure. Can I trust you? I get cold calls. I get spam emails all the time. You do too. Some of them sound very legit. I mean, I hate saying no when someone is calling me and asking to raise money to cure cancer in kids. I mean, how can you say no to giving money to cure cancer in kids? Or for the Firefighter Association. You know, firefighters that save us, that put their lives at risk to save ours. How can you say no when somebody's trying to raise money for that? And I have to force myself to say no for a very simple reason. Because I don't know that it's really them. And to go even further, it's more likely that they are not. It's most likely that this is a scam. So when I talk about scams, I want to put this in a range, okay? From the top to the bottom. The top is when what you're being offered is something that you need, something that you value, but they have to know that. They have to know that you value this. They have to know that this is something that you need. And that requires some work, which most salespeople, unfortunately, are trying to avoid. Now, below that are things that you don't need, or you don't need them now, or at least you don't need them for this price, because the value is just less than the price. And you know, something that I teach in my entrepreneurship class at SMU is that people buy because they get more value, more perceived value than the perceived price that they're going to pay. So below that, the salespeople who are trying to sell you something, they really do believe in what they're selling. They believe that you need that. They believe that there's more value than the price that they're asking for. It's just that they didn't do their homework and they're trying to sell you something that you don't need, that you don't value. But it's still, to some degree, you can say that it's legitimate, okay, because they're trying to sell something real. Below that are those who are trying to sell you something that has less value than they pretend for it to have. So they pretend that it has value where in fact it doesn't. And you know that one of my pet peeves is when someone is trying to sell me this service that will make me a best-selling author when we know that it's a scam. That it's finding a loophole in the Amazon algorithm that says that my book was the top seller in an obscure category for 24 hours, but I still captured that I was a best-selling author. So this is no longer ethical. This is where we cross the line below ethical. It's something that has less value than what they pretend it to be. And do not tell me that they believe that it really does have value. That giving me a best-selling author status when they know that it really doesn't meet the definition, the dictionary definition of what a best-selling author is, don't tell me that they think that they're really providing value. Then Even lower than that is when they're trying to sell me something that has absolutely no value. Again, we're way below the ethical bar here. And now we're crossing not only the ethical bar, but the legal bar. And this is where they're trying to steal my identity. So identity theft, ransom attack, getting control over my computer or my bank account or any other financial institutions. This is when they generate money from me, giving me no value, and in fact, giving me negative value, because there are consequences to identity theft. There are consequences to me. So this is pure criminal. So, because there is this range, and unfortunately, we see less and less of those calls at the top, offering me something that I really need and I really value for that price, and a lot more at the bottom, where identity theft, ransom attacks, and taking over my financial accounts happens. Let's look at some statistics. I collected statistics from multiple sources, and here are some of the things I found. Back in the 1990s, now it's not that cold calls never worked, but back in the 1990s, 8 to 10% of cold calls were successful. 1 in 10. It's not 1 in 1. It's not even 1 in 2 or 1 in 4. It's 1 in 10 or 1 in 12. 8 to 10% of cold calls were successful. 30 years later, in the 2020s, that number is down to 1 to 3%. So it's not only that it's 1 to 3%, but what's important to note is that decline. There's a dramatic decline, and that trend continues. In 2020, 94% of cold calls went unanswered. I don't answer them. AT&T is good enough to, in the caller ID, tell me that this is spam, so I don't answer. This is a telemarketer. I don't answer. So buyers are actually more and more going to digital research and inbound strategies, and therefore they are a lot less receptive to unsolicited outreach, cold calls, cold emails. Gartner reported that 15 to 20% of cold calls result in some form of engagement, but that, again, that does not mean that you close a sale. So this goes back to the 1 to 3%. Ring DNA, another firm that looked at numbers, did research, say that the numbers are 2 to 4%. They actually wrote an article called Cold Calling Statistics. Does cold calling still work? InsideSales.com reported that it takes 6 to 8 attempts on average to reach a cold lead. To actually reach them, not to close a deal, to reach them. So it's unbelievable. Now, why does it happen? Once again, because a lot more of the calls that you receive are at the bottom of the pyramid, where below the ethical bar and below the legal bar. So trying to steal my identity, trying to get access to my financial accounts, trying to sell me something that doesn't have value. They pretend for it to have value. Because these numbers are going so much up, the effectiveness of a cold call goes down, because I don't believe that it's at the top. Do you want some statistics about cold calling and spam? I'll give you some. So, 2022, percentage of emails that were spam, 56.5%. The cost of spam to businesses, $20.5 billion a year. The percentage of spam email that's actually identity theft, 73%. Percentage of spam that is marketing and advertising, 36%. The number of emails, the amount of emails sent, spam emails sent from the US, 8.6 billion spam emails per day. Here's an interesting trend. The number of spam calls, and I only found the numbers between 2020 and 2021. In 1 year, the number of spam calls went up 118%, more than doubled. In 2021, Americans, not businesses, people, lost $29.8 billion to phone scams. Almost $30 billion in 1 year, 2021. And almost 40 in 2022. An increase of 33%. 2021, the average spam call, had cost the recipient of that call $567. The year before, it was $182. I mean, this is like more than 3 times. 3 times in 1 year. In 2022, 68.4 million American citizens reported losing money to phone scams, which was a 23% increase from the year before. The number of spam calls, whether they're trying to sell me something I don't need, and actually here we're talking about scams, not spam, scams. So this is the bottom of the pyramid, is just increasing dramatically. And when it's increasing, the probability that a call is legit, it's at the top, is becoming nothing. And what's making it worse? Artificial intelligence. The techniques are just getting worse. The calls that you're placing. So before I go to artificial intelligence, I mean, even before artificial intelligence, the calls, when somebody calls you and they ask you to, is this Yoram Solomon? And you go, this is him. And they said, I just need a yes or a no. You know why they say that I need a yes or a no? Because they want to record you saying yes. They're going to manipulate that call and create a recording that shows that you said yes to an offer that they had. And now they have proof that you said yes after they charged your account. That's even before artificial intelligence. Once we have artificial intelligence can be smart enough to generate a spam email that looks authentic, does not look like bulk email. And then we go into deep fake of both voice and video, where those calls sound like they're from somebody you know, especially if you recognize that voice. So artificial intelligence only makes it worse. It makes it, if you thought that you can tell if this is a spam call or a spam email, it gets you to believe that you can't anymore. So the probability that you're going to believe that this is really at the top of the pyramid is becoming none. So let's get to the math of it. I promised you math. I love math, so we'll talk about math. How long do you spend on making a cold call? Probably a few minutes. I mean, from getting information, getting the, and by information, I really just mean an email address or a telephone number, and that's it. And then placing the call, and then trying to convince them with something. So you only spend a few minutes. So it's very, very efficient in terms of making one call. But if the success rate is 1 to 2%, let's say 1%, it's going to take you 100 times more to close one deal, to get a customer, to actually call a customer who has value or sees value in what you have to offer. But at the same time, let's say that it takes 100 times more to make such a call, to find that customer to start with. So again, back to the numbers. Let's say that it takes you 1 minute to make a cold call that's completely cold. You have absolutely no knowledge of the person that you're going to call. It's a list that came in. You just place that number. You enter the number into your database. You let the machine call. Person answered. You are on the other side. You're trying to sell them. The whole process takes 1 minute per one call. On the other hand, let's say that doing the research, finding someone, getting the references, getting recommendations, making sure that you provide value ahead of asking them to purchase something will take 100 times longer. 100 minutes per customer. But then the trust preference, as I showed in previous research that I've done, in the trust premium research, is close to 100%. If you get the right person and you offer the right value because you've done your homework. So you can spend 100 times more time in getting to the right customer such that the probability of closing a deal is going to be high, not by a cold call. It's a process that involves references, recommendations, and a lot more than a cold call. In fact, you will get the customer to call you. It's going to take 100 times more time. However, if the success rate of a cold call where you don't invest 100 minutes, but only 1 minute is 1%, then you're still spending 100 minutes in getting to one customer that's willing to buy. However, so it's kind of right now, it looks like it's an equilibrium. They're equal, right? Except for one thing. The conversion rate of cold calls is continuing to decline. It's going down. The probability of closing using trust, building trust first before you close, doing the research, getting the references, getting the recommendations, delivering value ahead of asking for a purchase, the probability of that goes up. Simply because the probability of the first one goes down. Oh, and by the way, you get a premium. So on what side of this equation do you want to be? Do you want to spend 100 times more to make 100 calls that one of them will result today, one of them will result in a sale? Tomorrow it's going to be 200 calls to get one, and the day after it's going to be 300 and 500 and 1,000 calls that you're going to have to make to close one customer. Because this number keeps going down, the percentage goes down, the number of calls goes up. Or do you want to spend more time in building trust and closing every customer you call, or very close to every customer you call? Because you've done your homework and you know that what you're offering them is what they need. Oh, and one more thing, you actually get a premium. You get the trust premium. Because not only people are willing to buy from people they trust, or prefer to buy from people they trust, that's the trust preference, they're even willing to pay a premium when they buy from someone they trust. Okay, that's all I had for you for today. Cold calls are dying a terrible death. They keep on declining. It's not your fault. It's the fault of other people that pretend to make calls that deliver value, where in fact they're trying to sell things that have no value, very little value. They trick you, or even try to steal your identity or get access to your financial institutions. And because of that, that's not your fault. It's their fault. But it affects the probability of success with cold calls that are continuous. The percentage of success continues to decline. The number of calls you have to make continues to go up. We're getting to a point where trust is the only thing that would help you close a sale. Cold calls will not. People buy from people they trust. And they're even willing to pay a premium when they buy from people they trust. With this growing rate of spam and scams, not only that you're going to have to place a higher number of calls, but the preference and the premium will actually increase. So sell on price. No, I'm sorry. Sell on trust. Don't sell on price. Sell on trust. Quality over quantity. Things have changed. You have to accept it. That's it for today. I hope this made you feel a little differently about trust and trust premium and selling on trust. May trust be with you. This was The Trust Show. What would you like to know about trust and trustworthiness? Let me know and I'll answer it in a future episode. I would love to hear from you. Email me at yoram@thetrustshow.com. If you like this episode, subscribe to the show so you will automatically get notified when I release a new episode. Rate it. Write a review for this podcast because those ratings help not only you, but also others looking for podcasts just like this. If you're looking for more resources to learn about how to build trust, be trusted, or know who to trust, look up my workshops, online courses, books, or go to my website, trusthabits.com. And remember that the answer to these two questions will have the biggest impact on your personal and professional success or failure. Can I trust you? And can you trust me? Thank you for listening or watching The Trust Show.